If you don't have a clear purpose in life, you will often struggle with things like motivation and happiness because it feels like there's nothing to get out of bed and fight for. Today, I want to go over 9 different forms of purpose that I've observed in highly motivated people. If you watch this video till the very end, you'll gain a clear idea of how to rekindle that fire within yourself so that you can feel alive again. So pay close attention. We're going to start off our list with one of the most common forms of purpose is to teach, which is the desire to mold those around you, to arm people that you care about with the knowledge to survive and thrive, to prepare them for what's to come. Now, unlike the desire to provide, which is more about helping your loved ones survive, the desire to teach is more focused on preparing them so they can thrive on their own, so that one day the student can outshine the master. This form of purpose is most commonly found in parents, teachers, and online educators. In order to cultivate this form of purpose, you must first become exceptionally good at something. Once you see the benefits this knowledge has brought into your life, you can then experience the joy of passing it down so that others can feel the same. The next form of purpose is faith, which comes from a desire to live life according to certain rules. Now, this might be because you believe something will happen if you stick to these rules, or it might be because you believe that following these rules is the best way to go about living life. Regardless, having faith as a form of purpose is extremely powerful. It's the driving force behind all religious and cultural movements throughout time. In order to cultivate this form of purpose, you must remove as many doubts as possible about your faith. You must have a close to 100% belief that this is how life should be lived. Be careful, for if you ever start to doubt your faith, you will be left with a huge hole in your heart. You will lose your sense of purpose in the world. Now, I'm not saying that you should blindly follow whatever beliefs people tell you to. You should question things. But once you figure out what belief system you want to follow, you need to believe in it with all your heart if you want it to become a motivational driving force in your life. The next form of purpose is to accumulate, which comes from a desire to have more and to collect what's rare. This is one of the most common forms of purpose in today's society. It's the driving force behind the consumption culture that we currently live in. Now, I don't think that this form of purpose is necessarily bad because you do need to accumulate a certain amount of wealth if you ever want to be truly free. Many people spend more than 50% of their waking hours working for someone else, helping them accumulate. So I don't think there's anything wrong with focusing on accumulation for yourself until you reach a point where you don't need to work that much, right? Because once you're free, you'll have the time to focus on more fulfilling forms of purpose like raising your kids or exploring the world. If you want to cultivate a strong desire to accumulate, all you need to do is spend time on social media looking at people who have more than you, which most of us already do, which is why this form of purpose is so common. However, it's much healthier to look at those with more free time as compared to those with more stuff, because more stuff will almost never bring fulfillment in life, whereas more free time definitely can. But even then, make sure not to overdo this, because spending hours every day on social media simply isn't healthy. Taking a look just once or twice a week is more than enough to spark the fire within most of you. The next form of purpose which is to provide. Providing has been around since the very beginning, and it used to be one of the strongest and most common forms of purpose that people had. Most of us have a built-in desire to provide for those that we love, whether it be for our kids, our family, or even our community. We want to give these people our time, food, and care so that they can survive, grow, and prosper. The problem with providing nowadays is that most of it is done for us, right? We no longer need to spend an entire day chasing around a boar or gathering berries in order to keep our loved ones fed. Nowadays, we can simply press a couple of buttons and have food delivered to us within 30 minutes. If you want to cultivate this sense of purpose, you have to place yourself in a situation where the only person that can provide for an individual is you. I've seen this occur in people who had a family member that suddenly becomes ill, or when they have a baby for the first time. All of a sudden, they have someone relying on them for their survival, and a fire awakens within them to provide. This actually relates to the next form of purpose is to create, which comes from a desire to make things and share your work with the world. This is the driving force behind every great artist and inventor. Now, this is an extremely fulfilling form of purpose because the act of creating tends to bring us into the flow state, where we are laser focused on what's in front of us, which tends to remove suffering. And at the same time, creating allows us to share our work with the world so that others can benefit. We can create art and make others feel certain positive emotions. We can write to spark fires within others. We can invent new gadgets and help make the world a better place. Creating allows us to give back to the world instead of just take. In order to cultivate this form of purpose, you simply need to spend less time consuming and more time creating. You can take baby steps. Instead of spending all day surfing the web, take 10 minutes and work on something. Doodle, dance, write, build some crazy contraption. Get used to the idea of creating, and you should start to enjoy it more and more. And finally, the last purpose is to explore, which comes from the desire to experience as much as possible, to taste all the flavors, to see all the sights, and to meet all sorts of people. This form of purpose is the driving force behind all great adventurers and world travelers. However, it is not only limited to physical experiences. If you have a strong desire to explore, you will enjoy exploring ideas as well. Learning becomes fulfilling, especially when it comes to things that you know little about. In order to cultivate this form of purpose, you need to first cultivate one of the big 5 personality traits called openness. And an interesting fact about openness, studies have found that it naturally increases from the time that we're born until we're about 8, after which it decreases, which suggests that most people enjoy exploration as a kid, but as they get older, they prefer to stick to what they're used to. If you want to cultivate a strong sense of purpose, you must do the opposite. You must become a kid again and embrace your fear of the unknown. And you can do this by starting out small, by going to places in your city that you've never gone before, by trying out a new dish instead of always ordering the same thing. You were once fascinated by the world, so it's certainly possible to be like that once again. Another way to cultivate the desire to explore is by learning new languages. See, when you learn a new language, you are literally training your brain to think about things differently. Not only that, but you'll be able to dive deep into a foreign culture to get an authentic taste of what it's like living and thinking in a totally different world. Now back to the topic at hand, the next form of purpose on our list is to conquer, to become the best of the best, to rise to the top and squash your competition. This is the most common driving force behind great athletes and entrepreneurs. In order to cultivate the desire to conquer, you must have a belief that you can rise to the top with enough work and effort. Without confidence, it simply won't seem possible. On top of that, you'll need to spend some time every day visualizing what it would be like to conquer your competition. The more you think about it, the larger the fire will burn within you. Now, a fair warning, having conquering as your main purpose in life can be powerful. It can motivate you to do many things, but it's not very fulfilling in the end game. You see, Olympic athletes are often met with a wave of depression once they win the gold medal, because all of a sudden, they realize that they are the best. There's no one else to beat. Their desire to conquer disappears overnight, and they are left with no purpose in life. If you are someone who wants to go down this path, just keep in mind that you'll need another form of purpose down the line. The next form of purpose on my list, which is to protect. The desire to protect isn't only about protecting your family or loved ones. People often have a desire to protect their community, their ethnic group, and even their ideas. This is an incredibly strong form of purpose. If you think about it, it's been the driving force behind most wars in human history. The protection of resources, protection from invaders, and protection of ideas being the most common cause of these conflicts. Even the idea of honor, when boiled down, is simply a strong desire to protect what one stands for. If you want to cultivate this sense of purpose, you need to do 2 things. First, you need to fall in love with something outside of yourself. This can be a person, a group of people, or even an idea. And second, you need to observe something that threatens the survival of what you love. This can be something that you see coming in the future, an attack from another group, or even another idea that threatens your idea. Once both of these conditions are met, you will feel a strong desire to protect that which you love. And finally, the last form of purpose on our list is to help, to remove the suffering of others, to help them overcome whatever obstacle that they're currently facing. The desire to help is built into most of us, and it is one of the most fulfilling forms of purpose out there. In order to cultivate this form of purpose, you need to do 2 things. First, you need to love other people. You have to have a deep understanding that all humans are the same, that we have many of the same fears and desires, that we all feel pain. Once you realize this, you'll have a strong desire to help those that are in need, because preventing suffering in another becomes just as important as preventing suffering in your own life. The second thing you have to do is get a taste of what it's like to help others. Try and do a small favor for your neighbor. Go out of your way to give food to the homeless or help an elderly person move their stuff. Once you do, make sure to look them in the face and see how much of a difference your actions can make. You'll start to realize how much happiness you can bring into the life of another by simply lending a hand. The more you do this, the stronger this form of purpose will be within you. Now, it's important to note that I did not cover all forms of purpose in this video, simply 9 of the most common ones that I've observed in life. I'm curious, which of these appeal to you the most? Which ones do you feel like I forgot to mention? Let me know in the comments down below. If you'd like to learn